Welcome everyone to the Winning Together podcast. This is Shay, Don't Hold the American Cheese, Aslet, and Jared, Grilled Cheese Sandwich Casey.
Oh man, I ate so many, I can't even count how many I've had in my lifetime. Ramen and grilled cheese are my thing, man.
You know, as an adult, as a parent now, you have that thing that comes up, like your kids are like, I want top ramen, I want mac and cheese, not, I want the Kraft mac and cheese, and I want grilled cheese sandwiches. Like, oh my gosh. Oh, and Dino Nuggets. And you're like, oh my gosh, you're not going to be healthy grown up. And it's just you have to kind of go back and yeah, actually you're healthy and you probably did more of that than you think you did, and it's going to be okay.
Oh, so true. We've eaten so many frozen burritos in my life, and so many packs of ramen. My brain's probably half ramen bowl. But now my wife's very good at helping us eat it better, and just try not to get too frustrated when the kids leave 90% of it on the plate. 10% of something healthy is better than 100% of something not healthy, though.
You know, that perspective is a choice. And we were talking about this earlier. So a theme I want to share with you on the Winning Together podcast today is a Marcel Proust quote, which I think is, it's really about perspective. And it's about how you see things differently. Let me go ahead and pull this up for it so I can share it properly. And it's, the real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes. And you follow that up with, you want a miracle? Change your perspective. So let's talk about that. What are you seeing in the recovery space recently in regards to perspective or fresh eyes, or where maybe people are getting stuck in seeing what they want to see and not what is, or looking for reasons to not recover versus looking for ways to recover?
Oh, there's the variety is vast when it comes to finding back doors to exiting recovery. I mean, they can become limitless. One of our clients has talked about how when he finally just made the choice to be done, it got so much easier and more clear. But that also meant he had to be done with excuses and blame and all those other reasons to shut yourself down and check out. So his perspective had to change. He had to have a miracle shift in his life where he was just realizing, all right, look, if I don't change now, what I'm going to lose is greater than I have now. And in his mind, in his life, he was going to lose his kids, he was going to lose his wife. He'd already lost his job. He was facing jail time for a year or more. Judges had already given him a sentence that said, you're going to jail for a year. And then at the very last second said, you know what, I'm going to give you one more shot. But if you screw up at all, you're done. So that perspective had to change pretty quick. And when I worked with him and I started seeing that change in him, he had to look at life differently. He'd already faced the cliff. He'd already seen over the edge, and it wasn't pretty. So however people get there to their cliff or their rock bottom or whatever it is, they have to also realize that they're going to have to change a lot, and in most cases, everything about their life. And that can seem daunting and overwhelming, but the rewards are also equal to the hard.
So in a healthy version, what does it look like? So we can also, even with our life, how we want it to be, or going great, or doing well, we can choose to go to that place to continue to grow and develop joy in our lives.
So a healthy version is going to look like you're taking 100% accountability and responsibility for your life. So whenever you say, so-and-so did me wrong, you're not taking 100% accountability for your life. Or my mom was bad, or my dad was rude, or my spouse wasn't kind. Yes, there's times where we become victimized, but in this space of recovery, you have to step out of that perspective and into one that says, I'm going to own my life. I'm going to take ownership for it. My life is worth living. Where a lot of people in their addiction, they don't value their life. They don't understand what they've been given. You might even call it first world problems, where they're not faced with, do I eat today or not? They're faced with, which drug do I want to take, and who can I take it from, and what manipulation can I use? And it's just a bunch of bullshit. Like, it's not real. They're not living a real life. And then there's the occasional, you get so low, you are living homeless, or you are living in a way that you're manipulating and stealing and doing horrible things, but that's not even a real person anymore. You become something that you'd never dream of becoming.
I think there's also this, if you're looking at it with fresh eyes, is one of the ways is you start, especially now with the physical proximity of people we care about, working from home more, being around more, kids not in school or with friend groups or participating in activities like they had before, to start looking at what you're not getting or what isn't happening or where you're not satisfied or fulfilled, where you're expecting the other person or the other people to fill that for you. To step back and be like, okay, my problems are somebody else's dream. They're somebody else's fantasy. And what am I willing to accept to get what I'm getting? And I think if you're kind of able to sit back like, okay, somebody somewhere in some hospital bed is dying right now, and they're saying, please God, if you do that, I will do anything you want if you'll give me what you have. And to kind of step back and be like, okay, what does that mean, being grateful? Because if you're not grateful, you're going to lose it. If you're not grateful for what you have, you can't get more of whatever it is you want. And I think that comes back to, you can choose to grow with whatever it is, and it doesn't matter if you're in addiction or your kid is or your spouse is. What if your family member gets sick? What if you find that your toddler has heart problems all of a sudden? What if you find that, your mom who you adore has Parkinson's all of a sudden? Like, are you going to blame them or that thing, why your life is? So I think part of it comes back is it's a practice. You practice in the small ways now of exercising, of, 10% of them eating good food is better than, 100% of not eating good food.
Right.
So 100% of Cheetos or, 10% of broccoli and then 90% Cheetos. Like, okay, they get 10% of this. That practice, that perspective in the small ways, if you don't do it there, you're not going to have it when your mom gets Parkinson's or when you find out whatever it is that's really hard for you to confront.
Oh yeah. I mean, that space of changing the way you view the world and how you get there is kind of what we're looking at. Like, you can either have it come to you, life happens to you, you have wreckage all around you, life just falls apart. A lot of that blame, all that regret, all that icky stuff is in the middle of addiction. Or like you said, something unexpected, like mom's got Parkinson's or my child might die. Like, life comes to you. And what tools you've equipped yourself with when that happens is going to make a big difference on how you're going to work through it. You hear all the time in this, let's just say the local media, a family gets killed or something terrible happens, and you'll see in the article the family is working through it with their faith, or they're leaning into their support systems, or they've got family that's carrying and helping them through this. All those things are a system of help and support in whatever way they are. But then you also hear the other side of those stories where person shows up at court so angry they want that other person to die. They can't let go of their grief, their hate, their frustration. They demand justice. And that person's full of rage and anger and sadness. So whatever tools you're equipped with at those times is going to pay huge for you through them. And if you practice them in small doses, gratitude, kindness, be good. I think it's funny, you have to see stickers on cars that tell people to be good or to be kind. Or you go through the drive-through window now and it says, we're going through a very hard time. Your kindness is appreciated. Is it that hard for us to practice being kind and good and grateful in this day and age?
Yes.
Why? Why is it so freaking hard to practice those things? Are we just contented in our misery, in our first world problems? Like, I don't get to go to the movie every 5 minutes now, or I don't get to go to see the football game, or that sucks. I'm that guy. I want to go see the football game, but I'm not going to sit there and be pissy to every person I walk around and talk to because I don't get what I want.
And do we watch the hero's journey in Star Wars or in Harry Potter or in whatever hero's arc you want to identify to see them get everything? Or we watch that to see them figure out how to solve the problems that for them are impossible in the moment, and the hero wants to give up and quit and say it's not worth it? Nope. We watch it because we want to see how The Rock figures it out.
Right.
That's why he's The Rock. And it's a story, but you write your story. We are the authors, and that's incredibly like chilling. The cold water of like you said, personal like responsibility, accountability, and ownership. They're different things. They mean different things. When you're in that place though, the pen's in your hand, and you find like, so here's an example today. My wife and I, before we started getting going, we were both triggered with something. And we were both saying, this is not the way we want our day to go. And so I said, this is not the way I want my today to go. And I didn't say but. I said, and so I'll focus on that. And that was a big deal for me, just to like not say, but I don't know if I can, or but you're really gonna make me mad, or but I was like, well, how do you want your day to be? Okay, then don't give any energy, even if it's one sentence, to how you don't want it to be. You've got to focus on how you want it to be.
And that lines up with your core values of giving your family VIP service, of showing up in the lives of the people around you the way you want them to show up in your life. So giving them what you hope to receive, practicing that positive assumption, law of attraction. You give good.
All I have is today.
You're going to get good. I'm going to practice today. What I'm going to give today is going to come back today in whatever way it shows up. So I see that in this recovery space where people will hit those walls where they fall really low. Life has happened to them. They've had some horrible things happen to them. Some terminology is rock bottom. Then they'll have this space where they want help. They become changeable. They become moldable. They start listening to the stuff we're talking about. If you're listening to this podcast, you're in that realm. Thank you. And we honor you for getting there. And however you got there, either by choice or by force, let's take advantage of that. Let's use the momentum for good.
Does it matter?
Doesn't matter.
Here. And how you choose to show up in this moment is what matters.
And your momentum going forward is everything.
Oh, yeah. Tell me more about that.
So as you take that momentum and you build routines that support you. So a routine could look like I get up and I take a cold shower and I go for a jog. And I listen to something good. I let good into my castle. Deliberately. I'm choosing those good things. For me, I've been trying to listen to good fantasy books because I get sick of self-help books. I like them, but I get sick of them. So I find uplifting fantasy books like Brandon Sanderson's got some great books, and they're well written, and there's good values written through the whole thing. So
I think that's another way that you're deliberately honoring the kid in you and the creativity that you have put to the side to focus on business and adult stuff. So I totally want to notice you for that.
Thank you. And we have to play. Like if we're not playing, it's hard to enjoy life. Like we really are supposed to play. Like I don't know why we take away recess when we get to junior high. Like we should still play. We need to play. So where that shows up sometimes though is we'll get clients. We had a client pretty recently that he came in and he was humble. He was accepting of any challenge and was willing to do anything. One of the first things he said to me was, I really want to go to church, but there's a pandemic going on and I don't know any churches to go to. Can I go to your church? Can I go to any church? I was like, yeah, sure, man, but we only meet like once a month. But I invited him to come, and he found out that I was remember the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He's like, oh, no, I'm good. I'm like, that's your choice, man. I don't push my religion on anybody. But if you ask to come to church with me, I'm going to invite you if you want to come. But then he didn't go to anyone's church. We had another girl here that's Christian, of non-denominational, and she invited him. He didn't go either. So he slowly, he knew what he needed. He knew what would be good for him.
And at the same time, was kind of declaring that his connection with his higher power, with God, was really important to him and foundational to him being like centered, right?
Absolutely. That was one of those things that got him out of that dark hole. Like, oh, I know that God loves me.
He
I know.
experienced the miracle.
Experienced the miracle. And then as he was moving forward, he started killing his own momentum. Oh, well, I'm going to put limitations on it. Oh, you go to that church, I can't go there. Oh, I don't really like her style. Well, mine's in a pandemic. So I'm not going to go, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to watch on TV. I'm not watching on YouTube. I'm not going to do anything. So that phase, what we call is a pink cloud, where things are really good and then we feel really great. And sometimes we're cured. We're good. I got this whip this time. This is it. I'm not going to fall back.
Maybe it's really not me that was the problem. Maybe it was just kind of circumstances.
I had a bad boss. I had a rough childhood. I had whatever it was. Like, there's a lot of stuff that we can put in that blame pile. Fast forward, we were trying to get him to 90 days. We give a free, awesome hat for everyone who hits 90 days here and a really cool chip.
Oh, they earn it.
They earn it. And he wanted to get it like a month early. And then I was like, oh, have you got your 90 days yet? No, I'm going to earn it. I'm going to earn it. Well, little by little, he starts to complain more, find reasons to not like his roommates, find reasons to feel like he's getting cheated at work, find reasons to believe that other people don't care about him, they don't understand him, they don't know what he's going through. And then before you know it, he's drunk and out there again. And then we try to get him back into help, and boom, boom.
Drinking,
Just a little half pint of vodka. Mm-hmm. You know, it's just sad because he was doing so well when that forced upon him behavior happened. Like, he lost his vehicle, he was losing his family. Like the two stories go. You can look over that cliff and see all the horrible stuff, and you can start changing for good everything about yourself, little by little, brick by brick, to make a stick. Or you can go for a little while and feel like you got this, and then just say, I'm good, I got this. You don't. We only got this together. Like those stories in the newspapers, people get through the hard trials. It was with their support. It was with their faith. It was with those people that they love to help them through it.
One of the things that you do at the Recovery, operation here is you have a book of the month, and I really, you chose to do the book "You Are a Badass" by Jen Sincero. And one of the quotes I pulled out of that book that I think was so relevant is that most answers reveal themselves through doing, not thinking. And I think the way the momentum becomes a force of nature in your life is that whether there's a pink cloud or a dark day, you're doing your best to do. Whether you feel it or not, whether it's easy or not, whether you are starting over at square one again for the 50th time, you're getting up and you're showing up and you're doing your best at where you're at.
Oh, you can't think your way out of a behavior. You got to do your way out of a behavior. I mean, that lines up in every case. Where we had a client even today, like, he's really angry, and he's just hides his anger and just tells everyone to F off and doesn't deal with anything. And one of the statements that we've come across is you have to work on your anger while you're angry. You got to practice it while you're angry, or else you're not going to learn it. I mean, you can read about how to sell a boat, but if you don't ever go out there and sell the boat, you're not going to sell it.
How many salespeople get stuck in that? Like, I need to learn more. I need to learn more before I go and actually cold call or talk to somebody, or how that's really applicable. So where do you want to go from here? I like where you're going with tell me about triggers. Like, so in the moment, so anger is getting triggered. What do you like, walk me through somebody who their anger has got them. It gets them, and they've yelled at their kids, or they've told their partner that they hate them, or they've alienated their parents, and they don't want that anymore. They want different. How do you work on your anger in the moment of the trigger?
So part of that is, it's like, there's a hurricane coming, and you've had anger before. You've gotten angry at your kids before. You've gotten angry in other situations. So you button up the hatches. You work on the weaknesses. You practice learning your own anger symptoms. So for me, when I get angry, I can feel tension in my neck. I can feel heat in my body. I can feel a choking in my voice. I can feel those things starting to happen. So that's the preventative side. When you've already become angry, our brain does a nasty little survival trick. It actually moves blood flow from the frontal cortex down to the lower midbrain into a more primal area of our brain, where they call it like the alligator brain. That's one.
It's called flooding, right? It's flooded with chemicals.
Yeah, you flood. And the logic centers are in the top of the brain. They don't work very well when you're inside your anger.
Right.
So
your prefrontal cortex area, right?
Yeah, that's where all your critical thinking happens. Like, I shouldn't say that to my wife. That doesn't even come up when you're in the lower part. So it's not a cop out. It's just an understanding of what's happening in your brain. So when you hit that point, you've done the best you can to prepare for those storms by recognizing some of the symptoms. And if you have a recognition of those symptoms, you can put a little statement in your mind to remind you to stay in the top of your brain. So for me, I used to play a lot of church basketball, which was fun and stupid. Old men trying to play like they're 20-year-olds, they hurt each other and don't do good things. I learned through my years of being involved in anger spells in church basketball to tell myself a statement. I'd say to myself, what do I want to have happen? Mm-hmm. What do I want to have happen? I just got an elbow to the face. I'm feeling heat. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling like cursing this guy out and punching him. What do I want to have happen? And what that does is it creates questions in my mind that I have to answer. And I respect myself enough to answer those. And it will take me down a chain of questioning that says, I don't want to look like an idiot. I don't want to punch this guy. My kid's watching. Do I really want that? No. So what should I do? I should take a break. I should go for a walk. I also know that if I take those breaks, my brain will calm, my heart rate will slow, my breathing will improve, and I'll be able to think more logically.
I love that. I think another thing is, for me, has been just talking it out loud. Oh, I really want to call you names right now, or I really want to mouth off.
Brilliant.
But I really don't want to. I don't want to cause damage that I have to come back and apologize for and make right and spend time like recovering from. I don't want to go there, and so I'm gonna just take like a break, or I want to create a safe space, or I'm just gonna hold on to it, or I'm gonna go run around the block, or I'm gonna yell into a pillow, or what. Like, there's 100 different ways to come up if you're willing to accept that anger outbursts are weakness, not strength. They feel like strength because your brain's like goes dominant, but if you're focused on what you really want, it will rarely ever get you closer to that.
Oh, and I love that shit. That's you're putting yourself in this, hearing your voice. You're doing something. You're engaging your ears. You're engaging your feeling, your sensation. You're engaging vulnerability. It takes a lot of courage to speak like that, especially when you're already feeling the heat come in, or however you feel it. Just to be able to put yourself in that space, it's a recognition that I want something different. I don't want it to be like it was.
And you're verbalizing it so the people around you know that, okay, like they want something different. And it doesn't mean they're not going to like bait you or put you down, or like try and make fun of you for doing that, or even try and like get you even more riled up. All things will happen. That's your choice to choose what you really want in that moment if you bring it up, right? So we're going to come back to the kindness thing, because I think this kind of goes along with it. Socially condoned, or anger is not, like, even if it's socially acceptable to be angry at whatever is causing your emotions to be close to the surface, whether it's your kids are now home and you're homeschooling, whether you're working from home and you're used to being at work, whether your partners on your case, whether you like being addicted to Instagram and your partner's saying, hey, you need to like give me a time and attention, you don't want to because you want to do Instagram, whatever it is, it's not okay to be angry and take that anger, because rarely even though you're getting elbowed in church foul, the anger that's coming up is most often not in line with what the thing is, and it's most often not related to what's going on. It's just you feel safe to let it out in this way instead of putting it on the people or the place or the situation that it actually belongs.
Oh yeah, I mean, you just spoke to the culture that we live in. That there's social acceptable ways to express our emotions, and there's some that are not socially acceptable. In our society, especially in North America, well, I'll speak to the United States because I can't speak for every part of North America. Men generally should not have sensitive emotions publicly. They're not supposed to cry. They're not supposed to be tender. They're supposed to be the tough, the hard, whatever that is. It's a generality, but it's a pretty common generality. Anger is more acceptable, and it feels good if it's been an outlet you've used. You can feel a release of tension and strain from it. It does not mean it's what's needed in this time of age. What perceivably worked in the Great Depression era does not work now. What worked 50 years ago, 30, 20, even 10 years ago,
Even 10.
does not necessarily work now. And you talk to anyone who's been through some of those really hard generational emotional blocks, and they've got plenty of damage. Whether that shows up in addiction or broken relationships or severed relationships, whatever you want to call them, that doesn't work. So I ask myself, how do I want to show up for my family? How do I want to serve them and value those relationships? I don't want to know my kids from 0 to 18 and then never talk to them again. I'm not going to financially invest over $1 million, which is the average cost to raise a kid 0 to 18. That's a really expensive relationship to say, all right, you're 18, get out of my freaking life.
Wait, is there any other more significant investment for 99% of people out there than that $1 million investment? Times 2, what's the average is 2.5 in the United States?
Yeah.
So now you're putting 2 to 3 million in this 18-year investment. You couple that with your home; those are the two biggest investments that most people have. Talk about what's your priority.
Right, but we go with an old pattern that says, all right, our first goal is to get our kids on their feet, educated, out of the house. Oh, now I get to coast into my retirement or whatever that looks like. That's not realistic. I mean, we don't want kids couch surfing until they're 45. I get that. But we don't want to run people out of our life. We want to connect with each other. We want to have those relationships. And for me to have those relationships, I have to learn from my anger.
You have to be the change you want to be.
I have to be the change I want to be. I want to be a good father. I want to be a friend. I want to be a loving, supporting husband. I want to be better than what I was given. And I'm not complaining what I was given. My parents did the best they could with what they had. And their parents probably did the best they could with what they had. But I don't want to be below average. I want to have an above average VIP relationship with my family for the rest of this life and well into the next.
I think that's an unspoken core value of yours and mine that I noticed you for is that I will have outstanding. I won't settle for anything less. That's it. We don't get more lives. This is, I'm going to go to Jumanji, the most recent one they did. And, the one character's telling the other character at the end, I'm down to one life. I don't know if I'm going to make it. And yeah, well, that's all we ever have is one life. And I think that underscores a lot of why you and I are willing to go the distance is I will have joy. I will have connection. I will serve my kids better than my generations before me. I will do my best. That's it. It's non-negotiable. I think you talked about a little about that in our prepping of, when people decide that no more, I'm not doing this, I'm not drinking that, I'm not using these things or this way of being to get the result that's not working for me, I'm going to do different. When you decide or you cut off and you're not negotiating that anymore, you free up a lot of energy to go in the direction you want to go.
Well, and there's these false narratives that we get stuck in, I can't learn things, or it's just always going to be this way. I had one of those for a long time. I had my brother beat me up once and tell me, "Are you deaf and dumb?" And for a lot of years, I thought, I think I'm deaf and probably a little bit dumb. And those hanging narratives, they really do hang you. and they slow you from having an opportunity to create what you really, really want or really, really desire. So for me, I had to get really clear in my communication. What do I want? What do I want to create? How can I create that with you? How can I create that with my kids? I'll state what I want, what I need. And that's helped me break through some of those limiting beliefs and false narratives and reap some of the fruit of that work. And it's definitely not an easy process, but it's worth it.
And more likely than not, you don't need different circumstances. You need to be and attract and bring out different circumstances in what's already around you. It's not like you need to remove yourself most often. It's you need to be a different person and attract different things out of those people around you.
Yeah, and if you look at it, some of us will say, "Well, I have no idea how to do that. I don't know what that looks like. How do I do that?" And when we find people in this state of change, so we have, like, going back to our story where people have had life happen to them or they're starting to choose to happen to life. Mm-hmm. There's so many people who want to help. There's so much information out there. There's so much support, and every door opens up. You hear it time and time again. Our clients will say, "Wow, when I just keep making the right choice, I get another opportunity. Another door opens up. A job happens. The court case clears up. I got a little money in the bank account. Wow, things I never thought possible are happening." And at this point, they're like, "Dang, this is good. I like what's happening." And they start to get more clear, and they can start looking at, I can look at the next year now. I can look at the next 5 years. Or before, it was always, I couldn't look at the next day.
I think, when you go back to, do we really need a sticker on how to be kind? Yeah, we do. So if people are, it doesn't have to be, your life is falling apart or whatnot. You could be experiencing extreme dissatisfaction or lack of fulfillment and not know why. So if you don't know how to, you know what, I'm going to be joyful today. If I ask you to do that, your homework is to be joyful today, you're like,
what?
Then you're right, you don't know how to do it. And mm-hmm. That's not good or bad, yet we should know how to do that. And maybe in another era, maybe they were more direct with their anger or more abusive verbally or physically because they'd spank you, whatnot. But they also knew to be more present. They also knew how to play more. They also knew how to spend more time around dinner and fulfill some of those needs. So how do we learn and grow with and keep the traditions that really bring value alive?
Oh yeah, I mean, you just nailed it on the head. And I think the simplest answer is 1% a day. You just do 1% better than you did the day before, and you choose those attributes that are going to give you the most gains. I know that if I practice gratitude, my things that are perceived trash or someone else's treasures. And then I can start looking at that trash, like, you know what, that was a treasure to me once. And all these things that I've become ungrateful for, or I've overlooked, or I've become entitled, they start to have new light. They start to be fresh.
Familiar. You're just not appreciating them because they're familiar to you.
Yeah, the AC goes out in your car. Wow, I really liked my AC, but I didn't even know it was there anymore. Or the heater. Like, we had a cold front, and I'm like, man, where's my coat? It's cold. So if I were to start from new and I've got that momentum, I would build upon very sturdy building blocks. And I want to hear a couple of yours, but two of mine that are non-negotiables. One is faith in something greater than yourself, and gratitude.
So I'm going to add something that's been a big breakthrough for me in gratitude, is gratitude without self-worth fails to give you the big breakthroughs that you want it, that it should. You have to be like, I'm so grateful, and you can feel like their energy is expanding, and it's coupled because they also feel worthy. And if you're like, I practice gratitude, but nothing's happening, and I'm still feeling flat, if you are willing to look at why you don't feel worthy of what you want to be grateful for, that's where you will get the big pow out of gratitude.
Oh, big time.
Mm-hmm.
Self-worth is like the new science of happiness right now.
Mm-hmm.
If you can learn to love yourself and value that self-worth, well, that's your miracle.
Mm-hmm. And then you get the momentum that gets you to a place that when the adversity comes, you take it on in such a different way than you had before, that it's really, you kind of get unconscious. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm really like showing up like I said I would because you've been practicing it for whatever, on the small things, or the, you know, the innocuous ways, or the days that, you know, you could have not done what you needed to do. I think one of my pillars I'm gonna add, it's same with yours, is higher, like something bigger, that it's not about you, whether it's a higher power or another person or a bigger like reason. And I'll go one further on that. If you people, or Mother Teresa said, people will not act for the many, but they will act for the one. So get a face and a name, or a clear picture of what that thing that's bigger than you is, and you will act differently.
Well said.
And the other one for me is physically active every day.
So much is in our body, and so much is in that, just the movement. You look at the great distractions that pull people down. It's the sitting and doing nothing. It's the watching too much TV. It's being on social media for hours and hours. It's the great suck, the great life suck,
Succubus.
the succubus. So, you know, there's a lot of research behind just get moving, and the motivation will come. The momentum will come. Get moving, whatever that movement is. And I want to see you and recognize you for your gift of accountability. That time and time again, when I've felt like doing nothing, or just feeling that great succubus, I know I got to send a text or reply to Shay tonight. And he's going to want to know why I did nothing. Or he may not, but he'll at least ask me. So maybe I do 10 push-ups. Maybe I do 1 push-up. Maybe I stretch for 25 minutes. Like something I wouldn't have done without knowing I got an accountability partner that cares about me and has my back. So I want to see you for that. I'm thankful for that.
So what you're referencing is I've gotten this ritual where I've identified actually the people who are most important to me in my life, and I've asked them if I can text them my workout every night, and it's no judgment, no expectation, and it's just a way that I've been able to share, and that ritual has become like a profoundly vital act of self-love that has filled me up, and I can give in ways that I haven't been able to give before. And part of that has been like accepting where I'm at. Like, okay, if it's just this, share it. Yep, it's not what you want it to be. Yep, guess what? It is what it is. And if you're not radically accepting of what's real in front of you, you can't move forward. So I've learned, if I want to move forward, I have to accept what is today and where I'm at, and meet myself there. And if I can love myself in that place, whole miracles open up, right? But I'm giving what I'm also like wanting, because part of that accountability is like also sharing, like I failed, I didn't do what I said to do. And the beautiful thing about that is you give me what I give you, because just recently, last week, like, what was it? How did you say it? You said, you texted back and you said, for the love, do 1 push-up. And that like got me. I was like, yeah, for the love. And I'm coming off at one of the more significant injuries I've had, like in recent memory. Mm-hmm. And so I've been really kind of like shelved for like 3 weeks now. And however, it's on my leg. That doesn't affect push-ups. Doesn't affect like, Shalabhasana. It doesn't affect like a shoulder press or curls or even some sit-ups or even like a squat. So I took a few minutes and I texted you back and I said 1 push-up, 1 sit-up, 1 air squat, and 1 minute of meditation.
So proud of that.
That momentum that generated has like started like being that stone that kind of rolls down the hill. And like today I went and walked for 2.5 miles. So like, and it's the shame killer that totally just inoculated the shame. Like, sorry, didn't fail, dude. Sucker. Like, try again tomorrow.
Right. And it really is that space where you give yourself a little bit of love, a little bit of compassion,
some grace.
Let go of shame. Let it go. It's not serving you. It's not serving your loved ones.
Treat it like the little toddler that's throwing a little tantrum. But it is, and that's it. Oh, I see you. Yep. Okay. Wow. Okay, gotcha. And that small act, that small ritual, it like really opened like the space for like, okay, feel good. Okay, feel good. Okay, feel good. Yep, you can do this. Yep. And the ability that it's created to recover more quickly has been profound.
And just to put it into perspective, I think an error that we run into is all or nothing. Like, man, I was doing so good. I was at the peak of my game, and then bam, something hit, and now I'm bonking out. That 1% attitude, it works really well in favor of breaking down expectation and the law of regression, which is going to happen. We're going to hit these moments where we're peaking. In every peak, there's a hill that goes back down. That's okay. But what I found in my life and in my client's life is when you let go of all or nothing thinking, you have to fill that space with something different. You have to fill it with a new perspective, like we've talked about. And that simple, today my 1% is a little better than yesterday, and it's enough. I am enough. I'm good enough. I am worthy. I'm worthy of love. I'm worthy of receiving good in my life.
It matters. The small actions you do or don't take matter.
The actions, they matter. That one push-up, that one air squat, that one whatever was the best one I've heard in a long time.
Do you remember how much energy that generated in proportion to what the investment of energy I put into it? It was 10x.
10x. It's beautiful.
One other thing I want to make sure we touch on. I know this has been longer, but it's been like a righteously good podcast today. You had mentioned you've seen some cross addictions coming up in the recovery space. So I wanted you to kind of touch on that.
Yeah, we find that, so we've got the momentum going. We're starting to progress, getting the jobs now, getting a car, fixing
money
in the bank, fixing court issues. You can put that in any framework. And then there's a space where we don't feel worthy. At least I found like our clients don't feel worthy. I'm not really worthy of that money in the bank. I'm not really worthy of a good job or a better job. And they start to come up with these narratives of, well, my boss is always mean to me, or I need to spend that money on something else. Or so the shift starts to happen where we find something else that makes us feel like we're getting worth. So for cross addiction of sex is a good one. We've had a client recently that has engaged in a lot of promiscuous sexual behavior, and it's really feels like it's coming out of nowhere, but it's not. It's just it's this feeling of a void of I'm not worthy. You fill me with worth. I'm good at sex. I'm going to give that out, and I'm going to find a way to feel worth through it. Well, that's not going to make you happier. It's going to deteriorate your self-worth. If you do create any kind of relationship with someone in that space of frivolous sex, it's most likely not going to be a healthy long-term relationship. It's most likely going to be destructive and lead you back to other terrible paths. Or you can look at other cross addictions like overworking. Had another client say, is 70 hours a week too much to work? And I just had to tell him, like, well, what do you want your life to look like? Is your life only work, or is there kids involved? Is there a wife involved? Is there other things involved? And it just seems to be like the next stage. So they get to that plateau, law of aggression kicks in, momentum's starting to slow. Oh man, I need to fill my life with other stuff. I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy of money. I'm not worthy of relationships. I'm not worthy of good. And bam, all these cross addictions start to pop up. And most often, it's just a backdoor to where they were months before.
What's nefarious about that is the justifications and excuses and the quote unquote reasons to engage in that have truths or realities embedded in them, but they are not true or real.
Well said. I mean, everyone wants to feel loved. Mm-hmm. Everyone wants to feel worthy.
I'm doing good. I should be able to have a boyfriend or girlfriend right now, right?
Yeah, it's a marker. I could have a pet.
Logical voice comes out and says, see, this is reasonable.
And then if you counterpoint that, there's a lot of, well, you don't get me, or you don't understand where I've been or where I'm going. And it's not about that. And we're trying to make a whole person. And going back to that statement, I had another client say, like, I scared her when I told her that she had to change everything about her life. And when she first heard that, she's like, no way. That's way too much you're asking. Fast forward about 4 or 5 years, she said to me, looking back, I changed everything about my life. And I'm grateful for it. It's what I needed. But it was a 1% process, day over day, with some regression and progression. And I believe she's in a much happier space than she ever would have been had she not changed everything.
I think also if you are in that place of like, my life's fine, like I don't know what these guys are talking about, but there's this little thing inside you that's like, you need to listen to that. And if you hear a message from 2 or 3 different places, that's your sign. That's life loving you enough to say, if you're we talked about this earlier too, like if your spouse or your partner, your parent, or your coworker who you know is like a really good, like has your back, is saying, hey, anger's an issue for you. And then you're getting ads on your Instagram that says anger management classes are in your group because you were like looking up, well, what is an anger issue? Like, do I have an anger issue? And if you're looking it up, your partner's telling you, and you're getting ads, and you're listening to this right now, there you go. Like, don't try and just like, no, you are where you're at, and if this is like bringing that up, yep, it's something you need to like address.
And I want to just say, this is the shame-free podcast. Like, we don't care. Like, I don't care that you have anger issues. I've had anger issues aplenty. Like, I don't care you've had addiction. I've had addiction aplenty. Like, it's not about that. Mm-mm. It's what do we want to create with our lives? Do we want to pass on something better than what we received? Can we look at those things and start acting for our lives and stop letting it act against us? Can we ask our loved ones, hey, what are some of my problems?
Excellent.
And if they say something, they're usually going to say it really kind and really soft. And if we respond, well, screw you, they're never going to talk to us about it again. But if they respond, here's a little thing I noticed, and you go out and you work on it really hard, this is from the Success Principles by Jack Canfield, by the way, then what they're going to do is they're going to say, you're doing great. Here's some more. And if we're healthy, if we're really as healthy as we think we are, we'll take that more and we'll work on it. And then we'll work on it some more, and we'll go and ask them for some more. And then they're going to give us a lot. Whoa, you know what? You have been working on that. Here is the file that's 3,500 pages thick, and I really think you should thumb through it. There's a lot in there for you. That's a healthy person.
Well, hold on. Let's make sure you understand. Your initial reaction is to be like, well, here's your file. But that's not what it's about.
Not about that.
No, if you do your file, you will fill your cup and you will be enough, and you won't have to go necessarily initially like that place of like, well, your file needs to be this. Nope. You do you, and you fill up yourself in ways that you haven't been, and you will be wholehearted more so for those around you, and they'll feel it.
Oh, man, I'm so glad you brought that up. And I'm going to share one brief moment I had this weekend where that happened to me. I was addressing my dear mother. I love her so much. But she's older and she's stubborn, and it's getting to the point where she may need to look at moving to a new home soon because her knees are going out and her back's going out, and she's just a wonderful person, but she's so stuck in that space, right, where she's not ready to leave. And I just tried to talk to her, and I put it in sugar, I put it in ice cream, I rolled it around, and
how you Mary Poppins did it didn't work, right?
it didn't work, but it kind of did. And this is where it got a little fun. Is, well, I say fun now because I'm past it. Well, she starts throwing all my file at me. Well, when you did that, you failed at this, and you failed at that, and you, what do you know about this?
Ooh, but that's done.
But it didn't, because I'm over it. So I just told her, like, you know what, Mom, you're absolutely right. Like, I don't claim to be an expert in any of those things you just brought up. However, I do love you, and I'm really worried about you, and I want the best for you now, not in 10 years when you're dead and miserable and in a horrible pain, which you already are in.
You don't remember who I am?
Remember who I am? I want to take care of you now. Let's not wait until it's unfathomably difficult and we can't do anything about it. So in hindsight, like, I'm grateful we had the conversation. It was really hard, but that file exchange came quick and hard, and we don't talk. Like, to put it in perspective, my mom is really good at burying stuff and just not talking. I'll put it under the rug, and it's okay. That's how she's coped. That's what she's learned. But I just told her, like, Mom, I really want to have real conversations with you. And she walked to the bathroom. And then when she came back, I just kept talking. And then she walked to the kitchen. And then she threw a little bit of a frustrated fit at me. And so I left. I literally just got up and I walked out. I'm like, I'm not going to play the fit game. And by the time I came back, she was willing to actually talk. So small win, definitely not even close to where we want to be. But I felt really happy that I was able to process that and have a real conversation.
Well, and you're able to leave the common goal. The real common goal is, I want to be a good son. You're a good mom, and I want to show you. I want to show that to you. I want to honor that. If you're going with the anger file, like, hey, hon, what's your pet peeves that I can work on? What are things that you want me to work on that I can do better at? What you really want is like, and if you just include like, I just want to connect with you better while we're alive. Like while we have this life that is what it is and the good things about it, I want to connect with you while you're alive. One ritual that I do have around that is every time that I see a wreck, my wife or I see a wreck or an accident.
Yeah.
We always make sure to tell each other that we love you and we're so grateful that where we're at today and how healthy we are. So that's been an interesting ritual that we've developed.
That's actually really a smart way to share empathy.
Mm-hmm.
Where I know in my experience, when not to tangent too much, seeing like a really bad wreck or a destitute person, I'll hear like my wife say, "Oh, I feel so bad for them," and I'll feel a little sting. Oh, I feel bad for them too. Like there's this natural empathy suck, like that. Oh, I feel bad for that situation. But switching it to a space of love, that space of love is way more valuable than feeling bad for the situation. So where you guys turn it inward, you're creating love out of wreckage.
In a space that we can control. I rarely will be able to control or have any influence on the person that's gotten a wreck on the side of the road.
Right.
So you're expending that energy, and it's good, but you're not putting it where you can like have an effect.
Absolutely. Whether that's inside your relationship or you turn it to love for the people in the accident, that's really where people who are empathetic can take a page out of your book and practice that internal empathy instead of, I'm going to give it all to this horrible situation and just feel drained. So well done.
And then get irritated because your spouse is whatever when you get home or your kids are, whatever. You're like, no, this is where I'm deliberately telling you I love you today, like right now. I love that.
Put it in perspective. And to be fair, a lot of people are high on empathy and they really want to help other people, but they drain. They get drained and they get drained and they put the energy in the wrong spot and they're worn out. So find an outlet that's you can control and put it back in the universe as something positive, full of love, a prayer for that family that's hurt, a prayer for your relationship. That's much more valuable.
I gotta tell you, clinician, this was top notch. I hope that you're there listening, it's been worth your time because I know it's been significant investment. We don't show up and record unless we give you everything we got, so that's our intent. How can we help you? Give us a call, 801-407-9998, iamrtc.com. That's iamrtc.com. The Winning Together podcast. Shay, I build momentum as it with Jared. Momentum is the key. Casey, love it.
Love it. Thanks, Shay. Win together.